You ever watch a bird in the late afternoon? How it doesn't flap around like it used to in the morning, but instead glides? It moves with the wind, not against it. That's what aging should be. A shift from force to flow. A lot of folks past 70 keep pushing themselves to move the way they did at 50. More steps, more exercise, more exertion, like they're fighting time itself. But here's the thing. Time is not your enemy. Fighting it is what wears you out. The body changes, and so must the way we take care of it. You don't need to be walking miles every day like some health article says. At this stage, it's about moving smarter, not harder. It's about knowing what truly keeps you strong, steady, and most importantly, content. That's what we're here to talk about today. The 5 things you should be doing instead of focusing on getting in more steps. Because aging well isn't about proving you're still young. It's about embracing where you are and making the most of it. Before we get further, I'd love to know where you're joining us from. And if you find something in this video that makes you pause and think, give it a like or share it with someone who might need to hear it. Small gestures can carry big wisdom. Now, let's get into it. You see, people often misunderstand what healthy aging really means. The world is loud with advice. Stay active, stay busy, stay social. All good in theory, but not all of it fits everyone. At 70, 75, 80, you don't need to be chasing after steps like a 40-year-old training for a marathon. The focus shifts. It becomes about balance, physical, emotional, and mental. I've seen too many people wear themselves down trying to follow the rules made for younger folks. Walking long distances, thinking it'll keep them strong, only to end up with sore joints, aching backs, or even injuries that take months to heal. That's not wisdom, that's stubbornness. The real secret? It's knowing what movements serve you best, and more importantly, what other habits matter just as much. So let's talk about the first of these 5 things. Strength over steps. If you want to keep moving freely for as long as possible, walking alone won't do it. It's about strength, the kind that keeps you steady when you stand up, the kind that helps you lift yourself out of a chair, the kind that keeps you from falling when you misstep. Muscle loss is one of the biggest problems with aging, and walking, while great for the heart, doesn't build the strength you need to support your body. What does? Simple, small strength exercises that focus on your legs, core, and back. A few minutes a day of something as simple as sitting down and standing back up from a chair without using your hands can do more for your long-term mobility than an extra 1,000 steps ever will. Lifting light weights, using resistance bands, or even just standing on one leg while brushing your teeth, these small habits keep your muscles engaged. And strong muscles don't just help you move better. They keep your bones protected, your balance in check, and your independence intact. The second thing? Posture over pace. Most people don't realize how much posture affects everything. Breathing, digestion, even your mood. Walking miles with a hunched back or stiff neck does more harm than good. You want to focus on how you hold yourself, how you sit, how you stand. Every day, take a moment to straighten up. Roll your shoulders back. Lift your head. When you sit, keep your feet flat on the floor. These little corrections add up, making a bigger impact than just adding more steps to your day. And here's a small challenge. When you do walk, focus on quality over quantity. Take slower, more intentional steps. Feel your feet connect with the ground. Walking isn't just about moving forward, it's about moving well. Aging well isn't about pushing harder, it's about being smarter. It's about making sure every step you take is serving you, not draining you. There's something people don't talk about enough when it comes to aging. They'll tell you to exercise, to eat right, to stay social, but they don't tell you how to handle the quiet moments. The ones where the house feels a little too still, where the phone doesn't ring as much, where the past feels closer than the present. See, aging isn't just a physical experience, it's a deeply emotional one. And if you don't take care of your mind and spirit the way you take care of your body, you'll find yourself carrying weight heavier than any dumbbell. That's why today we're going to talk about the third and fourth things you should be doing, instead of worrying about getting in more steps. These two habits will do more for your well-being than miles of walking ever could. The third habit: flexibility over force. Most people think of flexibility as stretching their arms or touching their toes, but real flexibility is much more than that. It's in how we handle change. It's in how we adapt when life doesn't look the way it used to. At this stage in life, you've probably faced losses, friends, family, maybe even parts of yourself that once felt unshakable. And it's easy to get stuck in how things were, in longing for what used to be. But here's the truth: nothing in nature stays the same. The trees don't cling to their leaves in winter. They let go, knowing that new growth will come when it's time. The most important kind of flexibility is mental and emotional. It means not fighting change, but learning to move with it. It means finding new joys instead of only mourning the old ones. It means embracing new routines, new interests, new ways of finding purpose. One of the simplest ways to keep your mind flexible: learn something new. It doesn't have to be a major skill. It can be a small thing: reading about a new topic, trying a different type of music, even changing the route you take on your daily walk. The brain, just like the body, needs to stay active in the right ways. Keeping your mind engaged, curious, and open to new things is what keeps you from feeling stuck in time. Another part of emotional flexibility is learning to sit with your thoughts without letting them drown you. There's a trick I like to tell people. When an old memory comes up, instead of saying, "I wish I could go back," try saying, "I'm grateful I got to live that." It shifts something inside. It reminds you that those moments were gifts, not things to chase after. The fourth habit: connection over motion. You know what's more important than keeping your body moving? Keeping your heart engaged. And I don't mean your physical heart, I mean the part of you that feels connected to others. A lot of people underestimate how much loneliness affects their health. Studies have shown that isolation can be just as harmful as smoking. But it's not just about being around people. It's about real, meaningful connection. You can be in a room full of people and still feel alone if the conversations don't nourish you. Now, connection doesn't always have to mean going out and socializing all the time. It can be as simple as making sure you reach out to one person a day. Maybe it's an old friend. Maybe it's a grandchild. Maybe it's just a kind word to the person at the grocery store. Small connections add up. If you struggle with loneliness, here's a challenge. Every morning, ask yourself, who can I reach out to today? It doesn't have to be a long conversation. Even a short check-in can make a difference. And if you're not sure who to call, write a letter. Even if you don't send it, the act of putting your thoughts into words is powerful. Another way to stay connected: share your wisdom. You've lived through things that younger people haven't. You know things they don't. And trust me, they need your wisdom more than you realize. Don't be afraid to share your stories, your advice, your lessons. So, to sum it up, instead of worrying about walking more, focus on keeping your mind flexible and your heart connected. Those two things will keep you feeling alive in ways that steps never could. There's a moment in life when you realize that the years ahead of you are fewer than the ones behind you. It's a truth that can either weigh heavy on your heart or set you free. Because if time is limited, then every day matters more. Every conversation, every sunrise, every breath, it all becomes something you don't just pass through, but something you fully live. The first four habits we talked about: strength over steps, posture over pace, flexibility over force, and connection over motion, are all essential. But they all come together under one final habit, one that changes the way you experience aging entirely. It's the habit of presence. See, most people spend their later years caught between the past and the future. They live in memories, replaying old moments like an old film reel. or they live in worries about their health, about their family, about what's coming next. But the only place life actually happens is right here, in the moment you're in. The past is a story. The future is a mystery. But today is real. And if you can learn to fully be in it, you will find more peace, more joy, and more meaning than any amount of movement could ever give you. The fifth habit: presence over pressure. People often think they need to be doing something all the time to have a good life. But what if the secret isn't in doing more, but in being more? Being more present, being more aware of the small moments, being more at peace with where you are right now, instead of wishing for where you used to be. One of the simplest ways to practice presence is through something I call small noticing. Every morning before you get up, take a moment to notice 5 things. The way the light comes through the window, the sound of the birds outside, the feeling of the sheets against your skin, the way your breath moves in and out, the way your body feels as it wakes up. Just 5 things. No rushing, no planning. Just noticing. The same can be done in any part of the day. When you drink your tea or coffee, actually taste it. When you talk to someone, really listen, not just to respond, but to understand. When you go outside, feel the air on your skin. This kind of attention to the present moment changes the way you experience life. Another part of presence? Learning to let go of unnecessary worry. Now, I'm not saying worry doesn't come naturally. It does. But I've seen too many people spend their days stressing over things they can't control, and all it does is steal their peace. Here's a thought to sit with. If you can do something about it, do it. If you can't, let it be. Most of the things we worry about either never happen or turn out differently than we expected. And even the hard things, when they do come, are rarely made better by worrying in advance. Instead of spending energy on stress, redirect it to gratitude. At this age, gratitude isn't just a nice idea, it's a survival skill. It keeps you from falling into the trap of thinking life has passed you by, because life isn't in the past. It's in the cup of tea in front of you, the laugh you share with a friend, the warmth of the sun on your skin. It's in the small things, the ones we overlook when we're too caught up in thinking about what's missing. Another part of presence is learning to accept where you are. The body changes. The face in the mirror looks different than it used to, and that's okay. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every line on your hands, these are not signs of loss. They are signs of having lived. They are proof that you've loved, laughed, struggled, and survived. They are not things to erase. They are things to honor. One of the biggest mistakes people make as they age is thinking they need to keep up with the pace of the younger world. But there is something powerful about slowing down, about taking life in fully, about realizing that your worth isn't tied to how much you accomplish, but to how deeply you experience the time you have. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you sat in stillness and just let yourself be? Not planning, not thinking about tomorrow, not wishing for yesterday, just being in the moment, exactly as it is. Try it, just for a few minutes a day. There comes a time in life when you stop counting the years ahead and start making the most of the ones you have, not in a rushed, desperate way, but in a deep, steady way. A way that says, I am here, and I will live these days with the wisdom I've earned. Because the truth is, you don't need more miles on your shoes to prove you're living well. What you need is something much deeper: peace, connection, strength, and the ability to be fully present in your own life. We've talked about the 5 habits: strength over steps, posture over pace, flexibility over force, connection over motion, and presence over pressure. These are the things that will serve you far more than walking an extra mile ever could. But now, let's talk about how to bring it all together into a life that truly feels rich, not just in movement, but in meaning. the rhythm of a meaningful life. A lot of people think that in order to live well, they have to keep pushing, keep achieving, keep doing. But the reality is, a good life isn't about speed, it's about rhythm. It's about knowing when to move and when to rest, when to push forward and when to simply be. Think about music. It's not just the notes that make a song. It's also the space between them, the pauses, the rests, the moments of stillness. Life is the same way. If you're always moving, always filling every moment with activity, you miss the beauty in the pauses. You miss the quiet joys. So instead of asking, "Am I doing enough?" start asking, "Am I feeling enough? Am I noticing enough? Am I present enough?" A meaningful life isn't packed with endless activity. It's filled with moments that matter. The power of small joys. One of the greatest gifts of aging is that you no longer have to chase after the big loud joys. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to impress anyone. You get to savor the small things, the things younger people rush past without noticing. The warmth of a good meal, the weight of a book in your hands, the sound of rain on the roof, the way a familiar song brings back a memory so vivid, it feels like time folded in on itself. These are not small things. They are everything. They are the real riches of life. Take a moment to think about your day today. Not the big things, but the small ones. Was there a moment that made you smile? A moment that made you feel something? These are the moments that make a life well lived. Letting go of the unnecessary. By the time you reach 70, you've probably carried a lot. Responsibilities, worries, expectations. But now is the time to let go of what no longer serves you. Let go of comparison. Life at 75 is not meant to look like life at 40, and that's a good thing. You are not in competition with your younger self. Let go of regrets. What's done is done. What matters is how you live today. Let go of other people's opinions. You don't owe the world an explanation for how you choose to spend your time. And most of all, let go of the idea that slowing down means stopping. It doesn't. It just means you're choosing quality over quantity. The wisdom of enough. If there's one thing I've learned from those who age well, it's this. They are the ones who learn the power of enough. They don't chase after more. They don't dwell on what they've lost. They embrace what they have. They wake up and say, "This day is enough. This moment is enough. I am enough." And when you live from that place, not constantly wishing for the past, not worrying about the future, but being fully here, something changes. Life doesn't feel like it's slipping away. It feels full. So here's what I'll leave you with. Aging well is not about proving you're still young. It's about embracing where you are, with wisdom and grace. It's about strength, not just in your muscles, but in your spirit. It's about balance, not just in your posture, but in the way you move through your days. It's about connection, not just with others, but with yourself. It's about presence, not just in the world, but in your own life. So, as you move forward, don't measure your days by how many steps you take. Measure them by the depth of your moments, by the peace in your heart, by the love you share, by the small, beautiful things that make life worth living. Because at the end of it all, what matters is not how far you walked, it's how deeply you lived.